Hey everyone, this is the Kubeflow Notebooks meeting for the 6th of November 2025. It is the last one before KubeCon North America, so uh, hopefully we'll see some people there in the meeting. If you're in the meeting and you're going to be there, please reach out on Slack. We're going to be obviously at the Kubeflow booth. We'll have Kubeflow Summit as well happening on the Monday, so please join us if you are attending. So, as I always like to do, I just like to point to the FAQ about what Kubeflow Notebooks 2.0 is, because it's the major thing we're working on. It's the next major release of Kubeflow Notebooks. It's a full rewrite of the project. It improves things in a lot of ways. I think there'll actually be a slide deck that we'll maybe go through even in this call that we're going to be presenting at KubeCon a little bit about what Notebooks 2.0 is. So, but in the brief, it's changing the focus from spawning pods to actually being a controller and having the admin define the options that the users can do, making it so they can select things like the template of the pod that they want, rather than thinking about a resource request, they can think about a GPU type and a size of memory and stuff like that. And so anyway, I just wanted to highlight that. If you don't know about it, go to the 85 issue on the Kubeflow notebooks. This one was moved from another repo, but it's that you get the idea. Do we want to look at the tracking board, Andy? Do we use this right now?
We should probably think about it, and I've just been distracted. So, I'd like to talk on like a Tuesday call. Maybe we can all agree on how to present that. So, I think information is there now, but we shouldn't figure it out on the fly on this recording.
Okay, cool. Let's so the cube, I think someone had I don't know if it's for this part of the call, but or I'm not sure if it's ready yet, the slide deck, but I believe someone was working on one,
Paula
finalizing it.
was.
Yeah, I made the changes that we discussed on Tuesday, Matthew.
Okay, cool.
Sent you the link on Slack if you want to take a
Is
look.
it something I should open now, or is it
Well, I guess
on the
only if you want
recording?
to review it right
Yeah,
now or
we probably
after
should.
the record.
Yeah, maybe we should review it first. Yeah, okay, cool. So we'll add like TBA link here. So obviously, if you're at the Kubeflow, what is happening here? Why am I? There we go. Okay. Uh, Paul was working on it. Okay. So yeah, and what we'll do is we'll share it in the next meeting because it's mainly for KubeCon anyway. So once because I think it's a useful reference that we can use for other presentations. The idea is that anyone could present it. It explains kind of what is Kubeflow notebooks, what is notebooks 2.0, why is it different, things like that. And I think it's for the purposes of a one-on-one or a one to small crowd presentation for at a booth. That's kind of the idea. So if you end up needing that, this is a useful thing to have. Anything you want to add there, Paulo, about what it is, or?
No, not right now. That's it.
Cool. Okay, so dashboard. Do we have updates on what's happening with the dashboard, which we also maintain? Maybe.
Yeah, sorry, I lost my Zoom screen. Kind of in a similar boat. There's one outstanding PR, Kimonis's migration script. I can't get it to work. I have a functional cluster. I run the upgrade script, a bunch of stuff upgrades, and then central dashboard doesn't load. I wrote a bunch of scripts, gave it to Kimonis to be able to reproduce, but I haven't heard back from him in a few days. So I'm suspecting there's probably a label selector or something that's wrong because I'm deploying off of the 10.02 Kubeflow manifest to get a baseline, but I feel like that should be a case the upgrade script should handle. And so if I have time,
Yeah.
I'll dig in to figure out where it's breaking. I'm sure it's because of the central dashboard to dashboard name change. Some labels misaligned. I just haven't had enough time to figure out where. So
Do we
yeah.
have any protection mechanisms to prevent um like just giving people a script when there's a lot of different ways that you could install Kubeflow? What does it do? Like, does it delete things or does it not? Or
Yes, it deletes the three things: dashboard, profile controller, and pod defaults, because those are all the ones that had quote unquote breaking changes.
Do we and with our breaking changes, have we changed the labels on the new one?
No.
That seems problematic. Okay. So this is just a removal script, really.
Well, then it redeploys based on manifests from Kubeflow dashboard, which then leads to other potential problems. I don't want to get too much in the weeds here, but there's some like not released manifest changes around pod security admissions that like don't then work. Like if you deployed off of latest of Kubeflow manifests, you can't even deploy dashboard off of Kubeflow dashboard because the PSA changes. So it's all confusing.
Well, it
Hopefully
should be
I'll
a tag, right? It should be a tag and or maybe a commit in the short term. Like the target install should be a tag, or it should just uninstall. Honestly, we could just say then go and go install it, you know what I mean, or something. I don't know. But
So yeah,
like,
so we'll to hear back and get Kimonis's thoughts on that, but that's kind of like where we're at right now.
yeah, I'm already. We need to probably put a qualifier that it's. I don't know. You know, people have to be careful. But also, I do really want to get those other break. I don't want to be doing this again, right? I don't want. I want to. You know, I want another. I don't want two breaking changes in a row. I don't want to be doing a notebooks 3. No, sorry, dashboard 3.0 quickly. Like, I wonder if those labels can be patched in after the RC. You know, not RC, sorry, after the alpha. Like if because we should release a 2.0 alpha, right? And then
Yeah, I mean it's just who's gonna do it, I guess is the problem. If it's you know what I mean, with the people available we have in the community right now, it feels like we need to go with a 2.0 and then deal with a 3.0 later. Just because I don't see where it's going to come from. But there's clearly downsides to that. I'm not in any way arguing with you.
no, I get it. Okay, cool.
But
Let's move
anyways,
on.
well, as soon as I can sync with Kimonis, we'll have some clarity, and then we can figure out where to go from here. But that's this PR 162 is specifically the dashboard PR that I'm hung up on right now.
62. Okay, cool. Anyway, we can look at that afterwards if I need to merge it or something. I probably can't merge it if without
Yeah, that
reviewing
one's
it.
not ready to merge. There, yes, I mean, you have existential questions, and like I can't get it to work right now. So that one's not a merge. We need to get it cleaned up and define when it should be used, and yeah.
Yeah, we're not obviously like we don't need to. I mean, we should rush out, but I just want to clarify like the dashboard release is much less urgent than the notebooks 1.0 release, just because dashboard is like no one's going to be using it in the new version until there's a new major release of Kubeflow. You know what I mean? So like it's kind of or minor, whatever, you know. Well, I don't know how we name our releases at this point. The point X, 1 point something release. And so obviously we do need it as well for our Notebooks 2.0 guides because it would be nice to point to people to there rather than to the other one. But most of what we're asking isn't from there anyway. We're like and you'll see probably we'll show it in this meeting. Oh, maybe not. We probably should show the basic of it. That when you install Notebooks 2.0, you from the manifest right now to get the dashboard because you need a dashboard and auth. And the auth, unfortunately, is not in the dashboard repo yet. So even if we did release a 2.0, from what the changes are, it wouldn't fix the fact that you still have to go to the manifest repo to get the OAuth2 proxy and DEX manifests for Notebooks 2.0 to work out of the box. So, because obviously Notebooks requires auth. Okay, let's move on. Any other comments people have about dashboard migration? So this is about moving from the old repo to the new repo, not our new Notebooks repo, but the dashboard repo. Anyone? Yes, no? Going once, twice? Okay. Notebooks 1.0. So I guess this one is about, it's not really about developing Notebooks 1.0. It's about migrating it to the new Notebooks repo under the 1.0 branch. I think Andy wanted to be an approver. Let's maybe not start with that. Maybe let's start with what the update of the status is.
Liav, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, hi. So the status is we still have 2 PRs, 2 Docker publish workflows PRs that still waiting to be merged. Also, we have another 2 PRs that one is for the common component removal, and the second one is for the pet changes in the component section from Kubeflow to Kubeflow Notebook. Both PR are ready and waiting to be merged. I worked on the plan for the vulnerabilities issue. It's ready after discussion with Andy. We have a plan. Maybe we can discuss about it here now. I'm not sure.
Is it a security related thing? We probably should talk about it offline if we talk about currently unpatched vulnerabilities. Is there any?
I think the focus right now is more so just the general dependency upgrade strategy. I mean, that does tie into security, so I don't know, but like really it's like here, like general guidelines of here's what we want to look to upgrade to move forward and resolve this stuff.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, there's too many things to talk about anyway in specific. So, like at a high level, what is your plan?
So first, we want to focus on upgrading Python, Go, and Node, just because we have some packages that will, let's say, force us to upgrade the Go, Python, and Node. So we thinking to start with that, and then maybe it will makes our life easier to proceed with the vulnerabilities dependencies. And after that, to start per component and per language to create the PRs to increase the packages and fix the vulnerabilities.
I'm trying to think if Node will be possible. I know that on dashboard upgrading Node won't be possible, but on notebooks, because we're depending on a now deprecated framework on dashboard. But for notebooks 1.0, it's mainly no, it's Angular. No, yeah, I think it's Angular, right? So that
Yes.
should be upgradable. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, we've already done upgrades once or twice for notebooks 1.0, I think. Uh, for Node, the one I'm most worried about is Node.js. Is kind of what I'm trying to say. So like, I'm interested to know if you've taken a look, like how painful it's going to be, or have you just kind of not yet?
No, not yet.
So yeah, I think the general thing, Matthew, was to just get like knee-jerk reaction to trying to target. Do you have the versions at handy, Liav? I think it was Go 124, Python 312, and I forget whatever the LTS version of Node is currently, but the late, like the, it's at least like, let's agree that that seems reasonable. And then obviously if the upgrade is a nightmare, we can follow up. But do you have any issue with just trying to jump to latest LTSs, Matthew?
Yeah, I'm fine with that, but I do think we have some like that is going to be difficult. Like for Go, for example, you're going to have to like you're going to be jumping like 10 years, not quite 10 years, but like 6 years worth of versions potentially, and that means you would and so the no the Go is only, well, with some exceptions in the notebooks 1.0, only used for controllers, which is like I think everyone knows here, like controllers can be quite finicky, and especially some of those changes would require effectively updating Kube Builder, but that's not really possible because of, well, I mean, it is possible. It's more possible than it would be with Notebooks 2.0, but because Notebooks 2.0 uses very custom kind of control loop paths, but Notebooks 1.0, like I think we've done those upgrades before. I need you to check what version we're on right now. Does anyone know what version of Go we're on for the current notebook controller? I can check, I guess.
I'm
I just
checking
wanted to
also.
check. I'm fine to check on screen. It's fine. Okay. Components, notebook controller. 17. Yeah. Okay. So that's quite old. I don't know how much of breaking change there was between there and then. Some of these internal packages will probably have to be upgraded as well. But okay. Well, I mean, let's see what happens. The concern I have is that I'm not sure how comprehensive our real ETE testing is. You know what I mean? And also some edge cases could happen. Notebook controller is probably fine.
So, well, and
I
that's
also
another
think
thing I called out with Liav as we're raising these PRs, we need to be very mindful of any dependencies we're upgrading, where are they actually getting used? And then do we actually have test coverage that actually uses that to make sure we, review appropriately? But at least as a first step, if you're okay trying, let's get the team looking at
think
that.
the
And then
UI is the most complex. I just want to say, I think the UI is the most complex. I don't think we'll have problems with anything else. That was my initial reaction. I think it's still my reaction. So as long as we focus our effort there first, maybe, or the UI is okay. That's your decision. What do you want to focus on? UI or controllers first? Controllers will be easier, probably. UI will be harder, but more impactful. What do you want to do?
So yeah, Liav, that's totally your call.
Yeah, I thought to start with both of them and to split it for with my team, but
Sure.
we can totally take one of them and give the focus. But we have members to take this task, so
Okay.
I think we can split the work.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, yeah. I mean, as long as everyone, you know, if you have both back end and front end people, I guess there are different types of engineers usually anyway. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, let's just be mindful when we're doing these updates that you know, it can break things. The front end especially is going to be the most likely to break something without knowing that it's broken. You know, like that's kind of where it's like, you know, like I know Angular has migration tooling and things like that, but then like let's try and do one at a time almost. You know, like Python for the front end, Node for the front. No, I mean when we're actually merging them. I don't mean like when we're working on them. Uh, yeah. Okay, cool. Any other comments you have there or things that you need to help you get that done?
No, thank you.
Okay, and so we talked about, I'll come back to this one in a second, but we talked about this. So what is the next phase for the actual, so even if we don't talk about security stuff, we need to get a release cut out of this branch. So is there, what other than, you said there was two Docker build PRs, but is there any other ones?
No, I think we
Yes,
have, keep me honest, Liav, but I think all the stuff called out here is raised and other, like there's one PR I have in LGTM because it's like dependent on another PR, but I think we have
yes.
all the PRs raised for what's called out here, correct?
Yeah, everything is ready for review and to be merged. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Okay, we'll follow up with that, I guess then. Okay, so the love domain isolation kind of fits under the security thing. We'll come back to that. Maybe I'll make a section called, oh, oh, I turned off my keyboard. That's quite funny. Okay. Okay, cool. I mean, and get approve being approver there. I mean, it's uh, let's look at where you're blocked and just confirm. Like, 'cause I don't want lots of work happening in Notebooks Corporate. That's I mean, like, so for like, how many real PRs are we really expecting to need to merge here? That's
Right.
kind of
Well,
what
I
I'm
mean,
putting.
we could have had 3 merged 5 days ago if I was an approver. So that's
Yeah.
just, and as we start to do these upgrade ones as well, it's like, waiting for a Thursday session with you if Kimonis isn't
No, I don't want to do
available.
that. Yeah, yeah,
That
I don't
really
want
like
to do
slows down the progress.
Mhm.
I don't want to put you on the spot on the recording. I'm more than happy to talk about it offline. I'm not trying to strong arm here. It's really just trying to push forward and make progress. And I've been thoroughly vetting stuff. But we can discuss that more. I just wanted to at
I
least
need
get
to
it.
ask Kimonis. Like, probably I do need to just ask Kimonis as well. Like, 'cause it's like he's not really been involved in 2.0, but like in 1.0, he has maintained it for like 6 years with me. So I probably should just confirm and be like, hey, I'm gonna add Andy. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's probably the minimum. Like, he was
Yeah,
involved up until a
I'm
few
totally
days ago.
comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it is you and his call, right? So it's like I'm not going to be bitter or upset. I was just putting it for consideration. That is, and
Yeah, I
you're
my
considering.
preference is that you do get it, but since he was involved most recently in it, you know, I think he should make
Yeah,
the
yeah, no,
final
that
call.
should, yes, absolutely the right next step. He should absolutely be comfortable with that. So I completely agree with that. Thank you.
Cool. Okay. Any other comments about 1.0 migration and security stuff? I don't know. Okay. Okay, cool. Let's try and close some of those releasing ones out even before the security stuff. Because I really want to cut a release out of it so that we can knock off the other ones. So let's focus on that, obviously, before the security stuff, I guess, unless there's already all the security stuff is the only stuff left to do, I guess. That's what we're saying, right? Yeah, okay. Cool. Let's move on then. Okay, Notebooks 2.0. So,
You can skip
all right,
over that first
is
point. I
that,
don't have any updates there.
do you want me to remove it or is it not?
No, leave it there. I still need to get that issue created to track.
Okay. So, yep, usually the way we're trying to structure the Notebooks 2.0 work is under these kind of initiatives slash priorities. Priority one is obviously being able to install Notebooks 2.0. we're pretty close to that. The last part is really just updating this guide for development, like so development guide as in users who are developers, being able to deploy from the main branch. And we've pretty much written it up. We just need to kind of go through the last few steps that actually install Notebooks 2.0 itself, and then we'll add it to the repo. We'll link it in the README and make it maybe I don't know, it's in a wiki. So Andy, do you have any comments about? So I just want to highlight the current outcome goal is to. Yeah, we probably do want to do like a demo of deploying it, but we'll come back to that. It's current goal is getting this one finished. Is there any other comments you want to make, Andy, about?
Well, so I was just gonna, the last we left it, I did rework. I completely hate customize vendor and customize localize. They do not work for a variety of reasons. So I ended up doing just a customize build with YQ to fix stuff. And we can go off recording. Like it's not secret, but I don't want to get into the weeds on that. But vendor and localize have restrictions on remote when you're pointing to remote URLs that made it exceedingly difficult and overly complicated to work with. So doing a build YAML modification then to get the right image references in and then applying that seemed to actually be the cleanest in the script. I did get based on that, I got all of the technical steps in the wiki updated. I tried to rework some stuff, Matthew, at least in code blocks. We'll still want to probably collab on that to get the wordings and write like motivations and stuff throughout. But my forked wiki has all the changes that have been asked for, even if I couldn't quite do what you asked. So we're ready. Like we can pivot and stuff, but it's working. I even created a script, just copying, pasting all of those blocks into a script. And I've ran that probably literally 100 times in the past 4 days for a variety of reasons. So it does work. It's just now the messaging and presentation we want to firm up.
So are we going to present a script as well then, or are we going to?
I don't, at least not right now. I plan on keeping that on, like I have like a separate, I mean, it's a public repo, but I created a Kubeflow scripts repo. It's been really helpful trying to test Kimonis's upgrade PR anyway to get like a baseline of stuff down there. We can talk about if we want to move the script in, but then we would obviously want to like be running automation at some point to make sure it doesn't break. And I don't know if we really want to
Well, I
own
mean,
that.
that's the E2E test, right? If we can find some way to make it also how the E2E test works, I don't know. Like it's
So yeah, we can talk. Like I feel good about the script I have right now is overly complicated because there's a bunch of different flags where you can deploy in a notebooks v1 flavor, blah blah blah. But the core, when you deploy in a notebooks v2 flavor, it runs everything in the same order that the wiki does. So we wouldn't use that script specifically, but we could talk about adapting it if we want to.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, it connects back to the ET test. So I guess this is the next priority. So I do want to talk about it since we're pretty much ready for the current outcomes to be done. So we do want to refactor the controller manifest to do that, but we'll come back to that. The next most important one though is we need full-on E2E tests. I know we talked about E2E tests for controller, sorry, for backend, and I don't think we have them for front end because that doesn't make sense. Front end doesn't really make sense. So you only have to do the whole app to make the front end test make any sense. So what I mean by that is deploying the pod for the front end on its own doesn't mean anything. It's just meaningless. Even for the back end, it kind of is meaningless as well to some extent. But yeah, I mean, yeah, we'll come back to that when we're talking about the SDO section. So what are our next steps to be able to do? Do we have a plan? I guess I don't know if we've got a plan for what our E2E tests for all three components of the Notebooks 2.0 are going to look like.
No, we should probably queue that up for like a Tuesday architecture discussion call to at least spec that out. But I completely agree. We're kind of at a point where we could start to act on that. And that clearly has ramifications to say we're going to GA a service. And the sooner we get those tests in, as we pump in more features, that gives us more confidence that, we're not slipping regressions in key areas. So I'll make a note and get that on our agenda.
Yeah, I think because that's definitely like it's under the reason it's under the priority one is because it's like I don't think something's deployable until there's at least one end-to-end test of the overall three components of the front end controller and back end working together, because that's where we should be doing most of our significant feature testing. Obviously, there's unit tests and ET tests in components where that makes sense, but I guess the question we should raise right now though is our end-to-end tests. Will we include authentication from the dashboard. Well, first off, will we include the dashboard? Probably. Will we include the maybe, right? Like that's the thing, like will we include the dashboard? We kind of have to, because a lot of the front end doesn't make sense outside of the context of a dashboard selector. We used to have a fake dashboard wrapper that happened when you ran the notebooks without a dashboard UI. So like you could select the namespace separately from the notebooks, sorry, from the dashboard dropdown.
We
I
still
get the
we
point, yeah.
still have that. I feel like that might be a good first pass to take like obviously long term we should pull that in, but I feel like we could at least get started without that to get coverage.
And also, yeah, it's not, strictly speaking, the dashboard is an optional deployment method. It's not really part of Notebook. So I think that it's not quite the same as deploying it with the example. That's kind of what I was saying before. So I guess then our idea to use the same script wouldn't work. Because the end users should be using it through dashboard or their own UI. Okay, well, I'm fine with either way. I think we probably should use the inbuilt one at least. Or not. I don't know. It's like this is a debate. This is a debate.
Is that,
I
yeah,
don't-
Paulo, keep me honest. We still have that functionality, right? I know we haven't really used it as much as we've looked at vendoring for Red Hat and central dashboard integration, but that is still a valid deployment mode, right? I think front end supports with the right environment variable set or something where it'll configure as like a standalone with its own namespace selector.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
My only concern is you won't be able to test auth with that.
Yeah.
Like, and auth is a big part of what we're doing. Like, where there is, like, for example, user specific. Like, you can inject user ID headers, I guess, but I guess you could. Yeah, you could just inject user ID headers, but with like it makes the E2E test harnesses just that's fine. I guess you could do that. It's not a huge deal. Yeah, probably that still works. But I mean, the question is obviously doing an E2E test on something that no one is ever going to use is a little bit weird, you know? Like it's like if it's going to be either vended UIs like what Red Hat's doing or the dashboard upstream UI, it's like what you know what I mean? Why are we testing this third UI that no one is expected to use? We don't support standalone deployment because there's no auth that no one would ever want that.
Yeah,
So,
that is a very valid point.
yeah, I'm not against using the dashboard personally, but well, it also means that we can do a test script for that. I don't know. It's hard to know. Okay, let's keep thinking about that. I'd say that we should be trying to after KubeCon. That's definitely the top priority after KubeCon, not for the overall project, but just like it needs to be like someone needs to be working on it. Because as soon as we've got deployable, then that's the obvious next step there, which is let's deploy it in automation. Okay. Any other comments about this? Obviously, we have a separate discussion as well that needs to take place, which that can be deferred a little bit till after this one because it's less important. But we do need to start making Notebook 2.0 images and the tooling around building them automatically. What I mean by images, sorry, is Jupyter, RStudio, VS Code, with CUDA, with Python, with R version, like all that stuff. The pre-built images we already have, they're called example servers, are great, but and for the first test releases, we will be obviously using the 1.0 images, but before we release a final 2.0, we have to make a new either repo. So that's actually the big thing that we need to decide, or we'll at least need a new branch for or yeah, I guess the question is, do we want to version them at the same time as the overall app? Probably not. So, or maybe we do. I don't know. This is a debate. Right now, we version the notebook images, example images, at the same time as notebooks 1.0, but we don't have to do that, right? So, and making a new repo seems a bit messy, but not having their own repo might make, even if it's on its own branch, is a bit weird. I don't know. Like it's just, so I just wanted to highlight this debate around what maybe is. We obviously have to build some tooling that because I think users. I think maybe part of it should be a separate repo, just because we've already got precedent now that Pipelines is also making their own separate repo for their components. And second off, I expect people to fork it and use it as a reference, maybe. Like that's kind of it should be extendable where it's like, oh, I've got a user, like it should like we should be building a tooling that is a reference for users to make their own custom images from. You know, like it's not or we're not like, or we can just out of scope that and say, no, these are just examples and you need to build your own. And so I do want to highlight one thing though, which is that when we did Notebooks 1.0's images, at a certain point we flipped to pushing the intermediate stages as well, so that users could say, hey, I just want to take Jupyter with nothing installed, install my own stuff on top of it. And so we at least need to do that, because that's for a lot of data scientists, they don't actually, you know, they don't want to think about this. They're not, you know, if you're not OpenAI or whatever, you don't want to build your own crazy infrastructure like this. So being able to just pip install as a final layer or something is quite helpful to me. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight that. Anyone got any comments about that or intuitions or feelings? Nope. Okay, just wanted to bring up, so yeah, these are the three kind of next priorities under this section. With this one's kind of a top priority, but it's just that one's something only really me and Andy can do, so I'm not gonna say it's a top priority right now. This one is though, like designing this at least. So if people have ideas for how to make a good end-to-end test and what we would want to test, keep what anything we would want to keep out of scope versus in scope, I think we haven't really finalized it, but you know, I feel like you just going with the dashboard for now is probably the safest short-term bet. But if not, we can disagree. So, and then the last part obviously is thinking about how we're going to publish notebook servers for DB2. These other ones are finalized once the release actually happens, mostly. So, priority 2. So I know that we've had a lot of people work on it. This priority is around connecting the front end to the back end, meaning that even in the case that there isn't a back end API for the front end feature, we can call the backend's mocked API. So I think we had some secret APIs merged and things, or maybe not merged, but tested. So who's been working on this part?
Yeah, combination of me and Charles. So the stub is out there. You gave some, not like a formal code review, but there's some change in just acceptance criteria, which is cool. So I'll get that PR reworked. That's not going to change the swagger.json though. So I'll kind of let Charles speak to where we're at on the front end.
Okay, so on the front end, we are still at the secret attachment modal. I am right now working on how to display both the secrets that you created during workspace creation, and also attaching the current existing ones to see. There are some duplications and there's some bugs I need to fix at the moment, but it's moving forward.
How are you handling the case that I think we did make it so that we list every secret in the namespace with the backend
Yeah.
API, and we just have a flag on each of them for saying, is this one mountable, right?
I think yeah, I'm handling it just in the UI. If like it's not mountable, then it's gonna be grayed out. It's still gonna be displayed, but it's not gonna be selectable.
I wonder if we
Um,
should highlight them in a separate section, or like, you know, just like filter them out, you know, because they're not usable, but then we do want to highlight to users, there is one there, we do see it, but you need to tell your admin, or you need to go to label it, or you need to go label it yourself, you know?
I see. Yeah, yeah, that could be a good solution. I'll explore that.
We just need like a intuition, like we need to like push the user, be like, hey, but most of the time when the cluster is configured correctly, you shouldn't need to look at those ones at all, you know? Like that's just like, you know, if they're database secrets or something, you're not going to get that. So like it's, yeah, good. Hopefully we can, do you know how much longer that step will take, or is there any other steps you're working on?
So this past week I've been focusing on other Red Hat tasks. So, um, starting today, I'll have more time on this. So I think it should be another. By next week I should have something to show you.
Cool. Or Andy or someone else? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Any other steps that we've got here? So like obviously there's other listing workspaces, which I know we talked about icons and logos, so I won't talk about that right now. We talked about that in a separate call. I don't think it's finalized yet. Creating and updating volumes obviously was a lot more complex than secrets for various reasons, but it's very similar. So I guess we'll just do the secret one first because it's mostly spec'd out. But now creating workspaces, I think I do want to just highlight that we are working on a very significant change to the behavior of this. It's not finalized yet, but the best way to describe it is it's not called compatibility selectors anymore. They're called rules, I think. I don't know if we'll end up calling them something different, but the idea is that admins are going to want, for the sake of their users and for the sake of sanity, to put some sane kind of suggestions to say, like, don't spawn a CUDA image on an AMD GPU, or don't allow certain teams by default to see the really expensive node types, and or like, you know, require. And so right now it's initially the design is not to enforce these rules, but to just hide when they are not allowed, and in the future we'll enforce them by having it be a flag that the admin can turn on for a specific rule to say this rule is actually denied a user if they try. But Andy, do you want to any comments about that? Because I think this is going to require a lot of UI changes to the main update and create flows.
No, I think you summed it up.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so hopefully we'll have the finalized API there for the stubs. Not stubs. We might actually just. Yeah, we probably will have to do stubs. Yeah. Okay. Thinking about it. Okay. At some point in the next 2 weeks, maybe after KubeCon, that one I think we'll probably be able to finalize next week. Maybe the design, but actually maybe not if everyone's at KubeCon. But we'll see. Okay, cool. Any other comments about this? So what's blocking us from getting anyone blocked by anything related to this? So like, you know, getting update workspace and create workspace also seem like, is there any changes that are being worked on other than what we just talked about?
Did you, sorry, I didn't hear if you mentioned icons and logo stuff. I hope to get, based on our discussions this week, I'll get a stub out for that. Although I think we have enough information, time permitting, I'd like to just implement everything, but at least.
Oh yeah, that's pretty. Oh yeah, you mean like just actually do the implementation rather than
Yes.
stubbing it? Yeah, it's probably
Yes.
simple enough that it doesn't. It's a little bit complex, but it is very. But the design is, because it's so complex, it's been spec'd out to almost the exact implementation. So
and that helps because a lot of those same paradigms can be applied to the secrets implementation. I mean, I realize config maps and secrets are different things, but like the same kind of controller runtime concepts are applied in both, where it might make sense just to try to rip off the entirety of logos, icons, and that sets us up nice for secrets, because in the end, it all has to be there.
yeah, oh, I agree. Let's just see how much time it takes, and if, I mean, to be clear, the front end. Well, yeah, I mean, the front end can implement those stubs, even if it turns out to take time, right? You know, I mean, like the front end can implement those stubs. It's really just moving parts, though. So I don't think the front end will take that. Actually, do we think there'll be time? Because there'll be time. I think there will be a little bit of work that has to happen in the front end, because it needs to not be. Well, it's kind of fine because we're doing those cache hints. Like, it's not, what I'm saying is it's not a lot of work, like,
Right.
for the front end. So it's probably the work is in the back end. So okay. Oh, cool. Any other comments about this priority, or blockers, or suggestions for things that we should focus on?
I just, for the sake of the recording, like update workspace, it's like once we kind of get this compatibility selectors bit worked out, the, you know, next kind of focus is really driving on update workspace, which is has its own complexities, but we have to get started on that soon.
Yeah, I think we have I had a PR that was mostly like not done, but like showed some
Yeah,
things.
so like next step for me is just reverse engineering that PR into an API proposal so we can get it totally fleshed out, even if just from a documentation perspective, but using the PR as the guide here, a little bit backwards, but that's, in this case, it's the right thing to do.
And also, did we end up merging we didn't, right? We didn't make a PR for validation.
I created a branch, but I have not raised the PR. I just need to actually review the validation stuff and then figure out what, if anything, I need to plug in there, and or how complicated. There was that one error handling scenario around JSON. I forget the exact error that can be raised, but we're not handling it today that we could parse to return a validation error.
Yeah, I think that to do was, yeah, so like what we're talking about for everyone's benefit is that there is a need to improve the way we validate models that are passed to us to be a little bit more extendable as we start making these very complex model objects for update and create. And so I did a PR, I did a base, like a draft PR that did that. And it's, in one of those changes, I put a note which said, hey, we should probably be returning bubbling more cleanly some of the errors relating to when the user passes a JSON object that is crazy or just is strange in some way. I don't think it needs to be in the initial PR, that's what I'm saying. That's my intuition. Just because it's not like it would be the front end doing a malformed request. You know what I mean? Like so like that just shouldn't happen, right? So like
So yeah, so no, getting that, so like that, like I said, I just want to like run it locally to like hit all these error scenarios, but like I imagine most of that PR is good as is. So as soon as I have time, maybe tomorrow we're trying to get a Red Hat stuff is kind of hot right now, but tomorrow, Monday, but getting that validation PR raised once I just verify it locally is kind of one of the next things up.
anything else on priority 2 then?
Not for me,
Let me
sir.
just write that actually. Where do I write that? It's like it's not.
I mean, we're
Oh.
treating it as kind of a prereq to update workspace, but yeah.
I'll just say it. Like let's use draft PR to improve validation of models in backend API, and then we have creating a design, no, like API spec document based on, let's use update WS backend API PR so the PR can be finished by anyone. Will be raised by Andy and reviewed by Matthew. Okay, cool. Any other comments here? Okay, let's keep going. Priority 3 is STO integration. So it's not to say that we're only going to support STO. Admins of distributions are going to be allowed to use whatever they like, but the one that's enabled out of the box and will support will be in the tests and everything is straight STO. I don't know if Hashad's here. Oh, he is. Yeah. I think you dropped off. But so STO integration is
I can speak for him. I know he's around. His audio might be hosed, but he got all of the changes and tests and stuff fixed. So we're hoping in a review session after the recording today, Matthew, that should be good to go. Was the update he gave me this morning.
cool. And I guess this one's really important for everyone to know because if we don't have STO routing, we can't make the more generic version of it. And also we do need STO or something like STO to route through the user talks to a gateway of some kind, like the end user, I mean like the browser talks to it, and then you can't have a different endpoint for every single notebook. So that's why we have this. You have to route them on an L7 router. But now that raises the question, L7 doesn't support SSH. So then the next question, I guess, is to design how SSH works. I think this is important. Whether we implement it straight away is a separate question, but we need to decide whether we need to make any foundational changes to the routing architecture earlier rather than later. And so SSH is critical because otherwise you can't use Cursor or other AI-assisted IDEs, which often use SSH or VS Code locally, that need the ability to SSH into the pod. Also, just being able to SSH into the pod is great because it means that it can act as a login node for a Slurm cluster in the future design of the multi-node stuff, or it can act as a just users often want to SSH and copy files in or something, you know, like there's many reasons why you want, but it turns out to be quite complex to allow SSH for the reason that the endpoint is public, maybe internally to your company, but how do we route you to the correct pod when you're only telling me about TCP? Like we could do it with ports, but you can't really have infinite ports open. We talked about VPN approaches, like SD-WAN kind of approaches. We talked about other things. But anyway, so I just wanted to highlight that. Hashan, do you have any other comments about your status here and ideas? I think you might be muted, but if not, yeah, no, we can't hear you. Okay, cool. I'll move on to now for the stand-up part. So Polo.
Okay, so as talked about in the beginning of the meeting, I worked on the slides for KubeCon. Did some PR reviews as well. So hopefully I'll be creating some issues, front-end issues on the 15 epics that are planned for the MVP on the GitHub issues and start working on them next week.
So these ones are for the not these ones merged, but the these ones are for the front end. Okay, yeah, cool. Okay. Anything blocking you? Nothing?
No, nothing blocking me right now.
Cool. And you have tasks you'll be able to do next week when you have time?
Oh yeah, I will check what's pending when I have some time and then start it.
Cool. Okay. Jenny?
Thank you.
Hello. So yeah, lots of front-end PRs that got merged for updates that Paulo kindly helped to review and get merged. Lots of like fixes to our custom styles and theming, and just some general issues on the theming that needed to be followed up in notebooks, just with the Patternfly implementation and just the structure of our components there. So that's all done. And then for the next 2 weeks, there's a follow-up issue that was opened as a result of that. And then I'll be continuing to apply UX feedback to our Patternfly and MUI themes just to make sure that everything is working appropriately. And then, yeah, I'll also likely be syncing with Paolo and Charles on what's next for the front end. And yep, that's it for me.
Yeah, obviously we need to think about some of those new pages. I don't know if you're doing design work on that or if that's someone else doing that, but yeah, we like especially around those secret pages. It's even if we get the first pass implemented by Charles, like I wonder if there's any design that could happen there. I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think I know it's maybe Kyle is that person just like as far as design goes. But yeah, I'm glad to provide any feedback as that evolves and yeah, as those PRs go up.
Oh, I mean, just for that sake, I'll just skip to Carl if he wants to say something. Have you had any chance to do anything?
Specifically for design, yeah, Tal is back and been working with Charles to figure out what is needed and I believe the only thing Charles identified was on I believe it was secrets. They needed some help figuring out how to, what the right flow is for adding those. So Tal's going to be working on that next week.
Has someone shared the API spec with you? Because it's kind of like there's quite a few bits of information that are presented to the front end, well, to the back, well, from the back end about when the front end does a list secrets, which is part of the flow, it'll send back a bunch of flags on the secrets being like, hey, these ones are mountable, these ones are deletable, these ones are not. And I think from a user perspective, I think as we were saying before, most of the time they shouldn't need to think about the ones that they can't do anything with. But
yeah,
we should highlight them as being there, and so that they can say, "Hey, admin, please fix this for me." You know what I mean? Like, if the label is missing, for example, that says yes, you're allowed to.
Okay, so you're saying like a user should probably see that they exist, but not be able to mount them because
Well, they definitely won't be
there
able
might
to.
be something there that the user should be able to mount, but they can't. There might be a bad setting for the admin to fix.
Yeah, and then once you go into a secret as well, there is keys. I forget whether we send the keys in the first list one. I think we might. But and Andy can clarify if you want.
Okay.
We do not send the keys in the list. It's on the subsequent Git if you like dive into it. So yeah, making sure you get that UX flow correct to like you'll never see the values, but some way for the user to jump out to be like, what is even in this secret, to at least see the keys should help guide them to understand if they need it or not.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. I know Tal's working closely with Charles on this stuff, so we'll make sure that they're connected.
And however we do it, by the way, I just want to highlight that the volumes will be kind of similar. They won't be exactly the same, but the same concept will apply where there'll be some volumes that are hidden. There'll be some volumes that are not mountable. Actually, I think the two flags are only mountable and deletable, right? So like it's not so much that there's a hidden concept, is what I'm saying to Kyle, is that like there's UI indications that like probably you'd expect the ones that you can't mount to be in their own section or grayed out or something, and obviously gray out the delete button on the ones you can't delete. But
yeah, that makes sense. And I do think that in general, I mean, I understand that there's specifics that are different between secrets and volumes, but from a user flow, I think we want to treat those fairly close.
I think the create flow for a volume is a little bit more complex.
Yeah.
But because in the case that the cluster has a lot of different volumes, which is partially why we haven't finalized the API yet. Okay, cool. And let's move on to this. So any other tasks you've been working on, or will you be able to have time next week, or everything's KubeCon? But
yeah, I mean, that's it for me right now. And I feel like we're in a pretty good state. Andy and Paolo and Charles have been pretty good. Jenny, all of them have been pretty good at picking us when they need something.
cool. Okay, cool. Okay, we'll jump back up to, oh yeah, Jenny, do you have anything else you wanted to add? I assume not.
Oh no, that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Okay, Hashad, have you fixed your microphone? I'm skipping over Andy for a second.
Did I? Can you hear me now?
Oh yeah, yep.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, I've updated the 500 pull request. That's the one which will include the virtual service integration and basically get everything set up for Workbench controller. So that pull request is ready. I've tested a few of the things and also pasted some of the screenshots and screencasts. So yeah, please, anyone has time, take a look whenever you get time. And also, if you have time, Matthew, at the end of the call, I'll stay around. That's it from me. As of now, I was just working on this.
Yep, I really want to get this merged if we think it's good, because I'll review it today. And then we have an end-to-end working thing. So when we deploy end-to-end, it'll actually work. So it's always important. Okay, well, I mean, work in the sense that you'll be able to access a notebook. Okay, cool. And you feel like it's ready, Hashad? And have you got tasks to work on for next week?
Yeah, next week I'll try to basically look into the culling and also like read up on the SSH stuff so that we can have some plan. That is pretty much what I'm trying to look into.
Into designs architecture for culling work. Oh yeah, I think culling work is probably actually, let me put that under, where do we actually put that? What priority does that fit under? It kind of doesn't fit under any priority. That's kind of why it's not there, right?
Yeah, and with me and Harshad talking, the focus is really at least getting the design of it agreed upon. Is there's already some foundational work done, but we just want to kind of reset to say this is our target, right? So at least getting it outlined is the immediate focus. We can figure out the priority of implementation later. I would just like to have that in our back pocket.
Okay, so yeah, I'd definitely say that if we're gonna, I mean, if you have time to do both, do both. But like, I'd say I think we want to design, well, I think we're closer to a design on the culling work, if you know what I mean, than we are on the SSH. So I don't know if that means we should focus, which one we should focus on. Anyway, it is 9 AM Pacific, so I will jump to the next person in case someone has to leave. Charles, do you want to say what you've been working on?
Basically what I was giving the update before, so just like still hacking away with the secrets attachment model.
Cool. And you've been able to work with Kyle and others to get reviews or ideas, and you're not blocked by anything right now?
Nope, not at the moment.
Cool. And you have time to work on stuff at the moment? We're good there?
Yes, I should be good from today on, yes.
Okay, cool, yeah. It's like, yeah, if it's a problem, then we can work on it. But yeah. Okay, and Liav, I think Liav actually dropped a wee while ago. So he was working on the notebooks 1.0 stuff, right?
Yes, sorry, he had to drop, but yes, that's where he's at, planning and orchestrating across his team then on focus on security.
Okay, cool. I think he mainly gave his update anyway. Okay, cool. Anyone else, Jeremy or others who haven't said anything? I think he's not here. Okay.
JMA's on PTO right now, yeah.
Okay, cool. Do we know if Ed was working on anything?
He's on other community
Okay,
stuff.
sure. Cool. Okay, anyone else got anything they want to raise before we stop the recording? We'll probably stick around. Maybe we'll come back in about 15 minutes and do some PR reviews for the rest of the morning. So if people have PRs they need reviewed and merged, we will do that. Thanks for coming. Hope to see someone at KubeCon maybe on this call, but I don't know. We'll see. Okay, thanks everyone.
Thank you all.